Hi all, let's look at another amazing game from the Gibraltar 2018 tournament. Levon Aronian against Nigel Short. C4, an English opening. E5, knight C3, D6, knight F3, F5, very aggressive from Nigel Short. G3, knight C6, D4, trying to challenge these pawns and fix them. E4, and now D5, so countering a threat on the knight with a threat on the knight. Knight E5. White takes on E5, and now undermining the centre. Guess what Levon Aronian plays? You might find this move a bit shocking. If I give you 5 seconds. Okay. G4, trying to undermine the centre. Very radical. Bishop C5. Queen B3 now. Now there's no time for black here to play Queen H4 because of Queen B5 check. So something has to be done about Queen B5 check, picking up the bishop there. We see knight F6, so the knight is ready to spring back with knight D7 on Queen B5. And that happens. And now here actually black is threatening Queen H4. This would be very annoying. That's extinguished with H4. This is also dual purpose. Maybe that's an attacking pawn later. The queen is kicked back. And now a very interesting move by Nigel Short, E3, disruptive pawn sacrifice. White takes this, and it looks as though the structure is slightly damaged here. But F takes G4, gives white that E4 square to play with. That's used immediately. And now Bishop G2 supporting that central square. And now, after castling C5, trying to open up this diagonal. It's far too dangerous to take here, as you might expect. Knight C3, exploiting the pin, for example, and then E4, that would be winning a piece. So we have here King H8, but this does line up the king against this rook. So this pawn, trying to break down the king's defense, could be more effective now. White castles queenside, so very, very aggressive dynamic play from white, as one might expect from Levon Aronian. Bishop F5, knight G3, Bishop G6. And now, yeah, the very natural looking H5. And black is in actually going to be in a very bad state if he just moves the bishop back. If he just moves the bishop back, this looks just as though white can just build the pressure on the H file. So threatening rook takes G6 there. E4, white has a big advantage here. It looks far too scary. So actually here black tries this piece sacrifice, which is very interesting. Knight takes H5. Knight takes for rook F2, and it forces an awkward move here. Perhaps rook H2 is possible, but this actually might even be better. Just the awkward looking bishop F1. Queen F8 now threatens bishop takes, and then rook takes F1. So the knight comes back. Queen takes C5 check. Yes, it was double attacking as well. So winning another pawn there. Queen C3, Queen E7. E4 shutting down that diagonal. Check. Now Queen F4 trying to undermine white's centre. White is prepared to give up that pawn. But we have rook F8. Rook G1. Rook F7. And now actually quite a clever move indeed. E3, it looks as though this might be a bit dangerous because of Queen F3, but Queen F3 kind of backfires here if it was played because of Bishop E2, believe it or not. If we have this position, then D6 is very, very strong. So there's back row issue. If takes, there's a back row issue. Otherwise, for example, this is just forcing black to give a rook up. So that's just incredibly strong there. And there's also things like queen takes E5 on rook D7. So this possibility doesn't really do much for black. The queen is kicked a bit back. Now bishop C4, so white is untangled. That was a key move to untangle. Rook D7. And now queen B4. This eyes sensitive points F8 and hits B7. Black protects the B7 pawn, but now knight F5, which is the other point of the move. Queen F8 checkmate is threatened here, interrupting that rook. H5. And here now, Queen E1. It turns out that white doesn't need to move the bishop. This rook is stranded and disconnected. After rook f3, the bishop comes back to win this rook by force, basically. Rook h3, because if bishop takes, there's that pin. But this is futile, because after bishop f1, the rook is kind of being trapped here. We see, for example, if rook f3, there's bishop g2. So we have there is a possibility of rook h2, but then maybe queen g3 hitting the rook, and e5 is strong. So we have bishop takes f5, just giving up more material. So a rook up. Now white is basically a rook up, but these pawns look a little bit dangerous. Bishop g2, bishop takes, rook takes, and that's pushed that h pawn. But here, queen b4 halts the pawns really in their tracks. The game ended here. If black tries to play on with, say, h3, then that pawn just goes. And if g3, then just rook h1. And it's unfortunate the king's behind the pawn. It's very difficult to not lose the pawns here. Impossible. So, yeah, the game ended on queen b4. So, very, very interesting, dynamic, aggressive game from Levon Aronian. Showing, actually, he's not usually a visitor to these Swiss tournaments, but he can play super aggressively. So, very aggressive stuff. G4 and castling, queenside, aggressive, dynamic. And you need to collect the points in these Swiss tournaments. And, yeah, this was on his journey to win the tournament. So, congratulations to Levon Aronian for winning the tournament. And maybe we can look at some other of his great games from this event. Hope you enjoyed it. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks so much.